So let's go ahead and start on this one. So we're going to show the contents of files. And the first thing that we need to do is actually pull the contents of files. So here's our GraphQL query right here. And so we are checking if we get a blob or a tree, and a tree is a folder, a blob is a file. So the other thing we can grab on this is text. So when I go to this URL, you can see here's the text. And we want to just display that. So let's first update the query like I just did. Sorry, non-UI and web. And right now we actually don't even need this OID, so I'm not going to request it. And because I made a change to the query, I just need to generate the GitHub types again. So it's complaining because I didn't explicitly set each variable to any, so I just added that. Now instead of blob, I'm just going to say object.text. And I'm just currently on the wrong, I was just in the wrong tab. We want to run generate in our folder for the website. And that's pretty much it, maybe. So let's GitHub query, get this, and here's the code. So one thing is it's totally not formatted right now. So that could be a problem. So one thing I wonder is, okay, they do add new lines. Cool. I just wanted to make sure that they had like the new lines in the text. So this is just probably the way it's formatting it. I think I can put in like a pre-tag and we can see what the actual value is. Formatted maybe nicer. I think we're gonna also like add syntax highlighting at some point. There we go. That's what I wanted to see. Is it possible to make an interface like the tree located on the left side while the context shown at the right, easy to navigate and no need to use the back much? Yep, it's definitely possible. And that's maybe one way we actually end up building this. That's currently how, so I have a plugin called Octotree that I was playing around with because that's exactly how they work. So this is a Chrome extension you can download, and it looks like this. And so what I can do is I can navigate the file tree over here. So GraphQL, query, and then I can click on this get object and it pops up over here. So that's kind of a nice little thing that we could build as well as something like this if we wanted to. You also get this nice like little icons here, so you can see what goes with each file. And we can tap in, I think there's a library that gives us that. So that's definitely an option we could do. All right, so now we are showing the blobs. That's pretty much all I wanted to do for that. And we can add kind of like some syntax highlighting and whatnot at some point. I want to handle the flashing next. So the flashing, I believe, is happening because we are rendering null. And let me just commit the code real quick. So the change we made was show text for files. So right here we are rendering null if we don't have data or if we're loading. All right, so I'm just gonna log that so I can see that. Right, so when I come to this page, it looks like it doesn't render null ever. But now when I navigate, it looks like there's a time where it renders null, and that's causing that flash. And so this may be a lapse in my knowledge of how Next.js works, but I believe this data should be cached. Because an underscore app over here, not an underscore app, but when we call this with Apollo client, we are using the get data from tree method right here, and we should be fetching the data. And that's exactly how I think this should be getting called. It says if it's not the browser though, so maybe never mind. I was thinking that we were initially calling that. So do we want to call this? I guess they just need to decide what we want to do to not return null instead. So what I was thinking was that this init function, the get initial props, was getting called beforehand and was fetching the data, so it should be in the cache, so we shouldn't even load. But it looks like it's not because we have this check. But what we could do is we could do it ourselves in this get initial props if we wanted to. The other thing we could do is we could just render a folder tree. I was thinking of running a folder tree but I wouldn't know how many items are here. So that could be a problem because you could do like kind of a dummy one. So I'm going to try a thing real quick. And the thing that I'm going to try is just calling this query up here. And we'll just see if this fixes it, and then I'll decide if I like this. So we're calling it with those variables. So we have access to Apollo client. We also should have access to the Apollo GitHub client, which, what did I name it? So we're just updating the interface. All right, so here we're just calling the query that we expect to call right here. And the reason for that is to just put it inside of the cache. And so that way there's no loading that happens here. Let's just see if this technique works. Cannot read property query of undefined. That also I was afraid of, so it looks like we don't have access to it in this get initial props. I think we can add it, and I'm guessing that's what this does. Context.context. Yep, that looks like it loaded good. So now I'm going to click on GraphQL, and now you'll notice there's not that flashing. And the reason for that is it's in the cache already. So common. I think that's how we want to do it then. So if we're going to do it like this, we can not duplicate what we're passing down here. So I'm going to say name owner expression. So now we're going to compute these things and the get initial props, and then we can reuse them here. There's no need to do them both places. Optimistic UI, does Apollo have something similar, or is it only used for mutations? Yep, so Optimistic UI you can only do off of mutations, I believe. So it's not going to help us with queries here. All right, so branch is going to be the name. Path here is going to be the expression, kind of. So we still need to pass the path in, it looks like. So we're going to say path, which is possibly undefined. Is that right? Is repo name? Yep, I think it is. I mean, we'll find out when we click on the link. Return name. Did I mess something up? Name is repo. There we go. And so TypeScript didn't pick that up, so I'm just going to restart it because maybe it didn't pick it up for a reason. Branch to be a string. So we're using branch here. Owner, expression, path. Expected branch to be a string. We put master there. Name is never in TypeScript. I think, yeah, I wasn't adding tslint for it, and so I don't have tslint set up, and I don't think TypeScript catches that by default, I'm guessing. Okay, I think I have a small typo somewhere. So I'm only using branch in both of these places and saying expected branch to be a string. So let's log what branch is. And get initial props gets run on the server. So this is not going to be shown here. Branch is equal to master. Expected branch to be a string. So why is it doing this? Why is name always never? It's because we did not specify it, like it never existed. Like, it's because I just like typed the name Bob. Bob never was defined. This was fine 2 seconds ago. I'm just going to restart next. I don't think it's a problem with like a cache issue or something. Cannot resolve to a user with username. Okay, so we got a new error, so that's good. All right, so branch is now the word documents. if you hover over the keyword name is always never, and if it's not exist. If you hover over on the keyword name is return never is. You're talking about this? You're talking about right here. In both places, it's not never. Well, if we just do that. It seems like a bad solution. Let's see why we could not resolve to a user with username users. Server looks like it's fine. I have no idea why these errors just like all appeared. Well, the branch is definitely getting messed up. So here, why don't I do something? Just comment this out for a second. I'm curious if that's what was breaking it, or if there's more to it. Nope, there's more to it. We're gonna say ... query. We're gonna move the expression back here. And we're gonna say branch. We're gonna say repo. So I just want to see if confirm that this worked before I made all these changes. See, this is what I expected to happen. Cool. So let's see the changes that we made, because something just like totally messed this up. So this particular change could have messed something up. These changes, I don't think messed anything up. It's got to be this. I'm just going to comment it out for a second. No, it's not that. I'm doing something really weird on this repo page where I messed up a line of code that was working before. All right, we're just gonna start over. We didn't make that many changes. I want to see if I broke something. I really should have stashed those changes in Git. I think would have been a smarter choice. My goal with doing this is I want to see if something changed, like if my token is invalid. I don't think it should have gotten invalid, or my session. Okay, good. It works. So I want to know exactly what breaks this. So we're going to go one by one and add what we added. This didn't seem like it broke it, so let's add this. Still good. I'm gonna do one thing also real quick. In my server, I called it repo. I'm just gonna rename it to name, because that's what we're using So the name just matches up easier. So now when I destructure the query, it should be name. I think I was... All right. Repo should replace it. I did it again. So name should replace repo, not branch. So everywhere I see the word repo, it could be name. There we go. I think that's where I was getting, I think I was mixing up the two. All right, still renders. Still got a nice little flash there. Okay, so now the last thing I'm gonna do, not the last, but we're gonna now just move this up. So I'm gonna create the expression up here. I'm gonna destructure this from the query. We could actually just destructure like that if we wanted to. You can pass the branch down, the owner, the path, the name. All right, so we didn't really change any code. The functionality should be the same, but we just moved the logic of creating those variables into the get initial props. Still looks like it works. Cool. So now let's get rid of the flashing. And we're gonna use the same technique as we did before. And this is just coming from the components that we created. This document is just the query. All right, so now we just have a really buttery smooth navigation. You can even see the code there. Nice. So that is that done. So this is the last thing that I'd like to do. We're gonna add this. So now this is gonna be maybe a little bit more complex to add. So we just completed the get rid of flash when rendering file tree. All right, so what it shows on GitHub, I believe should be this. So we're gonna log it. I think it should be the name, and then it's gonna be path, and then we just split it by the slash. So I'm currently in the web packages. So web packages. I'm currently in this folder. So it says codeponder/packages/web. Codeponder/packages/web. Then we go to GraphQL. When I go here, it should say codeponder/packages/web/GraphQL/GitHub. And I think that matches ////. Now what happens if I am here? Okay, it doesn't show it on the root. It only shows when there is a path. Okay, so that's going to be in this folder tree component here. No, it's not. It's going to show whether we get here or here. Okay. So given a name and a path, we can render it. So I'm just going to add it up here maybe. I'm going to say render file path. We need a name, which is a string, and a path. And so we're just going to call it in both of these places, and we're just going to add a fragment. I think a div is probably what we should add somewhere. I do the same thing here. So if we don't get anything, any path, we just return nothing. Otherwise, we're going to say path, we're going to say parts is equal to path.split. And then we're going to put name at the beginning. So here we're going to return, there's really no point into doing all that. Well, yes, there is. For now, when we just log it right here or display the text, there's not a reason to do this, but we're going to add a reason. There's a reason why we have this in an array now, and we're just going to join it together. This is merely for debugging and seeing if this works. All right, so this looks like the right path, and as I go up, it matches the path. Cool, so we just need to make that linkable now, and that's why we broke it up into an array. Okay, so how do you approach learning a new framework or language? Tutorial vid/blog with notes, then build and break things to learn. Currently stuck in a ton of tutorials. Yeah, I would recommend picking a project that you want to build, something that will help you or that you're passionate about, and start working on that, and that will help you a lot to make it into a project where you actually like release it and deploy it. And then it really helps if you want to like try making like a product out of it, and that will help you get really good at building something, and you'll also enjoy it along the way because you're building a tool for yourself or something that you enjoy. Because that kind of fragment works by default. What kind of fragment are you talking about? This one. Hola, Benny. With Next.js, I believe this fragment it works just like that. Nice. Vim is a great one to learn. Yeah, so we could also do react.fragment here. So this is why we broke it up into array, because each one's going to be a separate link. Oh, only in Next.js? Yeah, I think also in Create React App, they have it now also. You can do it like that. It's basically something you just have to add to your Webpack config, I think. So if your Webpack has it, you can do it, and I think it's included in both those Webpacks. What's the advantage of a fragment versus a div? Basically, the difference between a fragment is the fragment doesn't add any extra markup. Here, I could have added a div. Oh, breadcrumb, that's exactly what it's called. That's the word I was looking for. So yeah, I mean, the only difference between these two is like now there's not a div wrapping it. In this particular choice, I probably could have just used a div too. The fragment is just, there's sometimes you don't want to add extra markup or HTML tags around it, and that's why you do that. So now we're just going to map over the parts. So for each part, we're going to render a link, except for the very last one, because that's the page that we're on. So we're going to say index. So if the index is equal to the last one, which is going to be parts.length at -1, then we're just going to render the part. Otherwise, we're going to render in a anchor tag, and right now we're just going to say href and put a pound, just to see if this algo works. I tried that in the latest React and it didn't work. What React we're using? Oh, we need to add slashes too. So here I'm actually going to use a fragment. And we have to add a key to it. So when we have a key, we need to do that. And we're going to add a slash there. Let's add a key. I guess this is just going to be a span. All right, so the key here is going to be part plus index, we'll say, because you could have a folder name that are identical. Let's see if this gives us anything how we want it. Yep, that looks pretty much how I want it to work. We can definitely style this nicer, and we can fix how these links work. .4 alpha. That's not the latest React right now. That might have been when Fragments came out. I can't remember which one, but I think we're on 16.6 right now is the latest. Just out of curiosity, do you see any benefits to using the Vim editor itself? Basically, you get better, like Vim works a lot better than the Vim plugin, but the Vim plugin's pretty much good enough. Like I think VS Code's the way to go, especially if you're doing web dev. It's the one with hooks. 16.7 is hooks. So that one's not out yet. That's an alpha. Oh, no worries. Yeah. So here we're going to just turn this into the actual link. And we're going to use the link from our router. We already have it imported. Cool. And the way how this works is we have to wrap this with an anchor as well, an inner anchor that it uses. So we don't need this. So the route is going to be repo, and now we're going to pass in the parameters. So for us, from this method, do we know what the branch is? We do. We can say this.props.branch. The owner, we can say this.props.owner. And then path here, we don't want this. Can we do the same thing for the path here? I think so. I think we want to make a function because we're using the duplicate. We're using duplicate stuff here. I'm going to call this get params for path. So given a path here, which is a string, and this is not actually a path. This is more like, what is this? This is, oh no, never mind. We're gonna build this a different way. So I was thinking we could use the same logic that this shows you an error. Because we're building the link down here, but we're gonna build the link in a different way up here. So I actually don't think we can copy it. We are gonna use the branch and the owner the same, but this path is what's gonna be different. So how is this gonna work? Let's say the path is an empty object right now, or an empty array. Let's look at what this looks like. So when I click on this URL, the path should be slash code ponder slash master. This one should say slash packages at the end. And this one should say slash web at the end. All right, so let's see, if I click on this, does it work? Yes. So the path is actually going to be cumulative. Use the part of the function. Yes. That's going to be the very end of it. So I think we're going to do it like this. We're going to say let current path is going to be an empty, or is going to be an array. It's going to be an array of strings. Current path is what we pass in here. Oh, right here's where we're returning. There we go. Wrap that. No, it should be inside. There we go. So I was wanting to turn this into return here because I want to say current path dot push the part. And then that will actually make the path be correct here. So for each part, we're adding it at the end. What do you suggest as the cheapest and efficient hosted database? Have you tried BOFA? What is BOFA in regards to databases? I don't think you're referring to Bank of America. Usually what I do for databases is just host my own on DigitalOcean because it's the cheapest, but I'd love to know also that question if there's a better place as well. So I don't want to push this. I want to push this afterwards. So I'm going to say const value. Then we're going to push. Then we're going to return value. And we could call, yeah, let's call it value. Value is totally fine. All right, let's see what how this algo fared. All right, so I'm gonna go to packages. Nope, it's one off. So let's log the current path and the part that we're on. Hey Beepo. I host my dev builds on Elephant SQL, but they are mainly for testing online. Okay. Okay, so an empty array for code ponder. Yeah, that's exactly what we want. So why is it saying slash packages there? We put an empty array for the path. I think what I want is to say dot dot dot. I think we're getting into a problem where we're referencing there we go. I think we're getting a problem where we're referencing and we're changing the reference. This is just kind of a guess of mine. Yep, that looks like what it was. So to avoid us changing the underlying reference there, what I did is I just create a new one. So even though we're changing this reference, by the way, I don't know why I used the let there. We can just use const. But what I mean by updating the underlying thing is we're adding more items to the array. And so when I pass it in here, the path was increasing. Here I'm basically snapshotting it and creating a new value. Maybe use a reduce function, use the array to construct the path. Yes, that was actually the next thing I was going to try if this didn't work out. All right, so if I hover over, click on packages. Yep, that broke. So code ponder. So basically we don't want to include the first part. So this should be after the first part. So we're going to say if, oh wait, we actually do want this before, I think, because we want slash packages. All right, guys, I think the first item is a special case and everything else is not. So we're going to actually put this above. And we're going to say if index, then we push. Otherwise, so basically this is saying if index is not 0, push it on. Let's try returning that instead of returning value. All right, so now it says slash packages there. And that looks like the right. All right, so slash common there, slash source. Cool. That looks like it's the right paths now. And now it loads super duper fast after that, and that's because we're caching it. So bam, instant. Okay, nice. That's pretty much the file path that I wanted to set up. So that's nice. I'm trying to see if there's just anything else that GitHub does with this. I think that's pretty much it. This first one is just a little bit special. The other thing I should try is just make sure what it looks like when we actually go to a file. Yep, slash package.json, nice. So that's pretty much the last thing that I wanted to do today. So we had a shorter stream today. I'll stick around for a few minutes and answer any other questions you guys have, and then we'll call it a day and we'll continue working on this in tomorrow's stream. Now that we have this base set up, what we can do is click on, actually I'm curious what happens when I click on yarn lock. Oh, a little bit of lag there. Takes a while to load. But now when we actually click on files, I will now want to be able to copy paste this stuff. Well, not copy paste it, but like copy it and set line numbers. No, line numbers is the wrong thing. We should have line numbers, but I should be able to pick those and then create a code snippet out of it. Not just code snippets, but also like code questions, basically. Hi Ben, do you also watch tutorials on YouTube? I do. What is the best approach to make lazy loading? Recap, got late to the stream. Sure. So we did these 3 things. Let's go here. So first off, when I click on files now, we load the content of the file. So I can see the Docker ignore. Here's what's in my Docker ignore. And pretty much to do that, we fetch the text when we made this request to GitHub. So here's our GraphQL request or query, and we include the text, and it just gives us plain text of what we want to display. And so now we're displaying that. Second thing we did is we got rid of the flashing that happens when you navigate screens. So when I click on packages and click on server, notice how it just smoothly switches between the pages and what's being rendered here, and there's not like a flash in between of it showing nothing. And then lastly, we made this little thing right here. So now I can navigate to packages, can click on code ponder, and you can kind of see the file tree as you go down it, and you can click on different folders. All right, I want to go back to web, components, format fields, go back up, so on and so forth. Pretty much just directly replicating how it works on GitHub when you click on packages, server, and that sort of thing. Hey man, can I ask you use MVC pattern in React? Can you use the model view controller pattern in React.js? Yeah, I think you can. Uh, yeah, I would say you can, because, I mean, ish. Yeah. I don't know if it's technically considered it or not. Yeah, this is what I was thinking. So React is just the view, but you can add on other things to get the whole model view controller thing if you want it. Yeah, exactly. Who's the best coding YouTuber that you like? Um, I like when I was first learning React, I went through the West Boss React course, and I really liked that. I haven't gone through his latest one, the one with GraphQL, and I didn't do this one. There's another one that I did that was free before this that I learned React, and so I liked that one. But this is not YouTube stuff. He does mostly courses on YouTube. I like Kent Dodds. He has some nice videos. Why is it just the view? Because they don't mandate how you store your model, and they don't mandate how you control it, I guess. So like with React, you get to choose how you do those things. It's not like, I believe with Angular, it's like baked in. I'm trying to think who else I watch on YouTube for coding stuff. Yeah, nothing else really comes to mind off the top of my head. Yeah, I really like this library. I haven't tried out his course. I heard that was really good. Traversy Media. I haven't actually watched too much of his stuff, so I can't say. Couldn't React be part of the controller in the MVC too? I think you can, like, if you use like state. I honestly am not really sure like how React fits in with MVC framework or slash pattern, and like how it maps to different pieces, and how you can use it for different, like, if you would consider what you would consider using as a controller when you're doing React. Because yeah, you can kind of create like a controller in React that handles the logic, and like right, there's these presentational versus container components. So like you can build just view components in React, and these container components in React, I guess you would consider like your controller components, right? Code Realm is good, and he has GraphQL too. Oh, cool. I'll check him out. Haven't heard of him either. Do you have any experience with Game Engine in React or React Native? No, I haven't really done any game design, and haven't really done any with React or React Native. Hey, what's up, Matt? Net Ninja. What's the best flow for doing network requests in React/Redux? So what I did when I was doing that was Redux Saga. This one is a little more complex to like wrap your head around, but it's very good once you get used to it. Redux Thunk is, I believe, the simpler one. So those two you can check out if you want to do. These days, I don't really do network requests with Redux. I'm using Apollo for that. And Apollo actually has a REST thing, like a REST adapter, I guess you would call it. I'm not sure what they call it actually. Apollo REST link. So you can use it with REST endpoints. And if I was working with REST, I may give this a try instead of using Redux, because Apollo has some nice things like a caching, optimistic UI, and whatnot, just out of the box. I have an issue where I want to change local component state as a result of a Redux state change. I see. I think what you want to do then is move your local state into the Redux store. I don't think you want to keep it in the state there. Are you just doing Q&A now, by the way? Like, did you finish coding? Yeah, so I finished up what I wanted to complete today, so I'm just answering some questions. Yeah, quick recap of what we did. We got this working on GitHub, or these links working, so now I can click up the different file tree. So I'll go up to packages, and now we made it smooth when we click through different pages. And we also did it so when you click, you can actually see the code now. So basically, we can now navigate pretty well through the files. Yeah, putting UI component state in Redux is meh. It kind of feels unnecessary. Yeah, I agree. And that's where I kind of move out all my stuff out of Redux because of that, for that exact reason. Have you tried Laravel? No. I can see what you're talking about though, where you want I'm trying to think of the best way to do that, where you want to respond to, like, your local state responds to a Redux change. I mean, the answer to that is like component will receive props. Component will receive props is how you used to do that, but it's not really a good use case to use it like that. And now there's a new one you're supposed to use, and you shouldn't even use it. It's like derived state. Yeah, see, I mean, the first link is you probably shouldn't even use derived state. But basically, it's called get derived state from props. Basically, you change the local state based on the props. So the props being what's passed in. So you said you're going to use Slate for the code view, right? So here's what I'm thinking is this particular view, I think I'm going to do it like GitHub. So GitHub, you actually don't, let's click on this. This is not really an editor thing. We have lines, which we want. So that's one thing. I don't think I really want to turn this part into an editor. What I do want, and what I'm going to be using Slate for, is when I pick the code, it's going to now create a question or a flag, and then that should be a comment thread. Just like how issues work. Come on. And so this editor right here that GitHub uses, we're going to make one like this to answer comments and whatnot. And this is what we're going to be using Slate for. Like, for example, I have a model open to create an account for a user. Then after the account is created successfully, I want to close the modal, which is a local modal component state. Yeah, just very weird throwing the modal state in Redux. Yeah, I agree with that. That does feel really weird. Yeah, we do need a syntax highlighter. I think we can use Prism for that. I'm trying to think how you would do your Redux problem. Because basically you want to close it after it's done. I think what you want to do is this. Like, I think, like how I would do it with Apollo is this. So like if I wasn't doing Redux, I would do it like this. So like I would have a function that's like handle submit. And I would call this.prop, I would mutate. And then after that, I would just call this.setState, right? And you'd update your state. And I had to await it, so I had to wait for the mutation that's done. So I'm wondering if you can just await the asynchronous action somehow. With the context API, using that somewhere? Possibly. You can't. I've tried that workaround. Well, that's basically what this increment async is, right? So do you just call increment or do you call increment async? Let me see. I haven't done Redux Thunk in a while. Let's see how this works. Okay, so component did mount. They are dispatching make a sandwich with secret sauce. Which is this, which calls this. Okay, I see. So you actually dispatch like the promise itself. I've also had suggestions where you pass in a callback into the action creator, then call a callback that calls set state after the account create is successful. Yeah, I'm not really sure the proper way to handle that. I don't really use Redux Thunk. That might be the best. Yeah, I see. Yeah. And then like for example, you don't want it to close if the account wasn't successful and maybe you want to show an error message or something. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the best way to mix local state with Redux in that way. If I was doing it, I would probably just move the modal to Redux because it's depending on the Redux. It is kind of like feels weird to kind of move like that local state element into Redux because you're right, it isn't really a global thing, but it's depending on account success firing off, so you may have to do it that way. But yeah, I that's probably what I would do it, but I would be doing that as someone who doesn't really use Redux very often, so there may be a better proper way or more proper way to do it. I don't know if Redux Saga would handle that any better either. I don't think it really meshes well with local state either. Yeah, Saga is pretty similar. I think it handles more complex situations though. I don't think any of these are going to be dealing with also local state. I think a lot of times they put everything in global state. Let's just see for a second. I should theoretically be able to navigate Redux Saga from here. That's a lot of files. Have you seen the videos by Dan at Egghead? Getting started with Redux, very good. They're free. I think I may have watched some of those when I was first starting in learning Redux. Yeah, I like Dan's material in general. Have you guys seen his new blog? What's it called? It has React in the name. I forget about. Overreacted. There you go. Oh, you don't like Dan's stuff? He just had he just started a blog where he's going through a lot of different kind of under the hood how React stuff works. I only read the first one, but it was pretty good. Alright guys, I'm going to sign off for the night. Good luck with your stuff, Matt. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.